Hello, fellow humans. Well, it's definitely still COVID season. We had 2 weeks to flatten the curve, and it's November of 2021, and we're going into 2022 next month, and we still haven't done a thing about COVID except for a new vaccine. There's different opinions on what the vaccine is, whether to get the jab, whether they're not. I mean, there's huge controversy on it. There's entire countries that are forced. Something like Australia. If you guys have been watching the news, Australia's pretty crazy right now. And I'm not gonna go either way on the jab. I'm not gonna, because I'm not for it or against it. There's people significantly smarter than me saying that it's a good thing. I am, however, gonna take us back almost a year to show you that there is something a little fishy about the vaccine being the only thing that we can do for this virus, when 11 months ago, all of the best doctors on the planet, all of the best doctors came in and begged the world. And I'm going to show you all the clips of the videos. Begged the world to come in and throw some money at them for this wonder drug. This wonder drug, and I'm sure now everybody's heard of it because it's been in the news. Joe Rogan took it, and they kept calling it heart dewormer, but it's not. Ivermectin is actually what I'm talking about, and I mean, do your own research. You could look at the titles of CNN or MSNBC or Fox News or whatever it is you watch. You could look at the titles, and you can just make your entire thing off of that, or listen to an expert for 5 minutes that's paid off by some pharmaceutical company. Just do the research on the people that you see on TV. Do the research of who they're tied to. I'm not trying to do anything conspiracy theory. I'm saying do your own research. I did my own research. And I came across a video of December 2020, almost a year ago, 11 months ago today, that talks about ivermectin. It doesn't only talk about it. They literally bring the best doctors. And I'm going to cut it up for you so you guys don't have to watch it. I'll leave a link so you guys can watch the whole thing like I did. But I sat around writing in the Times the best points, and I'm going to cut it up for you guys and let you guys see that they're not only telling you that ivermectin will end the virus, but they're begging the world to come together, and they're just being shut down. They got completely shut down. It's the best doctors on the planet saying this is what's going to end this virus, and because the vaccine is what makes the money, they went with that. And now we actually have, I'll even put in a little bit of a video of, there's people that get prescribed ivermectin by their doctors, and the pharmacists won't give it to them. So we're going to go on a little journey right now of some stuff I've been coming across. Like I said, I'm not for or against the jab or whatever, you know, the vaccine. I believe in freedom of choice because I'm an American, and I believe that here we should have the freedom of choice. I don't think you should be fired. I definitely don't think you should be fired if you're a doctor, because you would be able to understand it better. But Fauci has his lock on everything, and, you know, maybe he's right. I don't know. I'm not the expert. You know what I am? I'm somebody who researched. I'm more like a investigative reporter right now. And I'm taking a break from my usual human design, and I'm going to do a video for my page that it really trips me out about what was going on December of 2020 when the best medical professionals in the world came together and tried to beg the world for something that is not a heart dewormer. I mean, it's used for that because it's such an amazing drug. Ivermectin, the guy who discovered it in 2015 got a Nobel Peace Prize. In 2015, you could check it out. And everybody reamed Joe Rogan for using ivermectin. Like this clip right here.
More breaking news this evening. Joe Rogan, an extremely popular podcaster, announced on social media today that he has COVID. Rogan has said young, healthy people don't need to get vaccinated. In his statement on social media, Rogan said he has taken several therapeutics to recover.
Turns out I got COVID. So we immediately threw the kitchen sink at it. All kinds of meds, monoclonal antibodies, ivermectin, Z-Pak, prednisone, everything.
One of those drugs he mentioned, ivermectin, is something more often used to deworm horses. CDC says there's no evidence it works on COVID. Its increased usage has only led to a substantial increase in overdoses after a push by some on the far right citing vaccine misinformation.
Joe Rogan.
Yes.
I would say you've had it.
Yes.
So now get one shot of the vaccine.
No.
Why not?
Because I have better immunity than I would if I was vaccinated. Right?
Yes.
Don't I?
I think your immunity is really good.
So why, if I've already gotten through COVID and I was really only sick for a day, and then 5 days later I was negative, and I do have the natural antibodies now, why would I take a chance in getting vaccinated on top of that?
By the way, I'm glad you're better. I'm glad it only lasted a day.
You're probably the only one at CNN that's glad.
No. We're not.
The rest of them are all lying about me taking horse medication. And we should talk about that.
That bothered you.
It should bother you, too. They're lying at your network about people taking human drugs versus drugs for veterinary.
Calling it a horse dewormer is not a flattering thing. I get that.
It's a lie. It's a lie on a news network, and it's a lie that's a willing. That's a lie that they're conscious of. This is not a mistake.
Yeah.
They're unfavorably framing it as veterinary medicine.
One of those drugs he mentioned, ivermectin, is something more often used to deworm horses. CDC says there's no evidence it works on COVID. Its increased usage has only led to a substantial increase in
what you do with your body and how you want to live your life. Yeah, and like ivermectin, that's a horse dewormer. You can only get it at veterinarian hospitals. Hey, I got a horse that's got worms coming out of it. I need some of that ivermectin. It's got worms all over the place. It's coming out his ass. It's coming out his mouth. I heard it works on COVID. I want some of that. Hey, but that's misinformation that mainstream media was spreading. That drug is FDA approved.
Yeah, it's been hundreds of millions. I think it may be even over the billions. I mean, and it's safe and effective.
Yeah.
Right?
It reduces the replication of
viruses.
Something
like that, out in vitro or something like that. I don't know the details, but I mean,
a man
you
actually
can go to a doctor and actually get that from a doctor, not a veterinarian.
Network about people taking human drugs versus drugs for veterinary.
Calling it a horse dewormer is not a flattering thing. I get that.
It's a lie. It's a lie on a news network, and it's a lie that's a willing. That's a lie that they're conscious of. This is not a mistake.
Yeah.
They're unfavorably framing it as veterinary medicine.
Well, the FDA put this thing out. You saw that. Did you see that thing that the FDA put out?
What did the FDA put out?
It was a tweet, and it was snarky. I admit it. They said, "You are not a horse. You are not a cow. Stop taking this stuff," or something like that.
Why would you say that when you're talking about a drug that's been given out to billions and billions of people, a drug that was responsible for one of the inventors of it making
Nobel Prize.
The Nobel Prize in 2015?
Yeah.
Yeah, a drug that has been shown to stop viral replication in vitro. You know that, right? Why would they lie and say that's horse dewormer? I can afford people medicine, motherfucker. This is ridiculous. It's just a lie.
I don't think anyone is
But don't you think that a lie like that is dangerous on a news network when you know that they know they're lying? You know that they know that I took medicine. Like, here it is. This is ivermectin.
You got
this
it with
right
you.
Here. Somebody gave it to me.
All right, hang on. The thing is, we're like going so fast. Like I feel like I'm missing.
Do you think that's a problem that your news network lies?
Well, I don't.
Dude,
what did they say?
They lied
What did
and
they
said
say?
I was taking horse dewormer. First of all, it was prescribed to me by a doctor.
Yeah.
Along
They
with
shouldn't have said
a
it was
bunch of other medications.
If you got a human pill, because there were people that were taking the veterinary medication, and you're not, obviously. You got it from a doctor, so that it shouldn't be called that. Ivermectin can be a very effective medication for parasitic disease, and as you say, it's probably, I think what, 250 million people have taken it around the world.
More,
I get that.
Way more.
So
way more.
That's not what's going on, people. You can go to your doctor. There's a human version of the drug. He goes to Walgreens with his prescription for the human version, and this is what they tell him.
I'm saying pharmacist here. Medication, I would reach out to your doctor's office if you're needing it. Just because
it's something I've taken for how many years?
Yes, sir. Okay, well then I'll.
So I had a prescription for ivermectin to pick up more.
COVID.
I have a licensed. I have a licensed doctor that prescribed that to me.
You will not fill ivermectin for COVID. You can
That's against the law.
No, actually, it's not.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
You can call the border pharmacy and call whoever you want to. Actually,
You have no right to get in between a patient and a doctor. You're not a doctor. You're a pharmacist.
Ivermectin is not authorized for COVID.
And it's FDA approved, sir.
Not for COVID.
It doesn't have to be. It's an off-label product. Do you know what that means?
I do know what that means.
Okay, so then you should know better.
No.
It's probably, I think what, 250 million people have taken it around the world.
More,
I get that.
Way more.
So
way more. Billions of people have taken it.
Can I just come back to the one I want to talk about? Two things on
You
the
have
ledger.
you have, before we get to that, does it bother you that the news network you work for out and out lied, just outright lied about me taking horse dewormer?
They shouldn't have said that.
Why did they do that?
I don't know.
You didn't ask? You didn't think that was you're the medical guy over there.
I didn't ask. I should have asked before
But they
coming
did
on
it
your
with
podcast.
such glee.
No,
yes,
Joe.
they did. I watched.
You watched?
I watched.
You watched? No, I don't think there's
yes,
glee.
They did.
I don't. No one takes.
Joe Rogan says he has COVID, taking livestock drug despite warnings. Yeah.
Jamie had to pull this up.
You want to play it?
Does she
This
have
is your
glee?
news network.
I'm going to watch.
Let's see.
I'm going to watch.
Rogan telling his 13 million Instagram followers that he was treated with several drugs, and he included ivermectin on the list, a drug used for livestock. The FDA and the CDC warn against using to treat COVID.
Turns out I got COVID.
Look, they put a
So
yellow
we
filter on me
immediately
too.
threw
The kitchen sink at it. All
They
kinds
did.
of meds. Monoclonal
You see the original
antibodies,
video versus that? I look like shit there.
ivermectin,
Do you know that?
I think you look good.
Pause. It's enough.
Prednisone.
That's enough, Jamie.
I don't think Aaron had glee.
Oh, well, it's more Brian Stelter was the gleeful one. But the point is, that's a lie.
It can be used for humans. I get it. I totally.
Not just could be used for humans, is often used for humans along with all the other drugs I took, all human drugs.
Yes.
They know it's a human drug.
It's right. But
they lied.
The thing
it's defamatory.
It is yeah, they shouldn't have done that.
It's defamatory, right?
Well, I don't know if it's defamatory.
I bet it is.
And I know what you're thinking. These are podcast guys, right? Like, they're not the experts. What I put that on there for was to show you that they're going to lie to you. Okay? Usually when everybody's pushing something in the media, there's something else happening. The left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing type of thing. I don't know. All I have is what I see. Now, we're going to get down to the experts. Remember that sheet that I said? Well, I'm going to cut up the video so you don't have to listen to the boring parts. But once again, I'll leave the link in the description so that you can listen to the whole thing like I did. But I basically just took the greatest hits of the wonder drug, ivermectin. I'm just going to let it stream all of the clips of these doctors begging, not asking, begging for the world to take ivermectin. And this is over a year ago. And now we got vaccine, everything. Australia completely shut down. People with the vaccines dying, all that stuff, when all we had to do was take this wonder drug, ivermectin. According to most of the research that has been done, but it's been shut down, like you saw in that clip of the guy that tried to get the prescription that his doctor wrote. So something's going on, people. I don't know, but here is all of the people, the experts rather, the doctors from all over the world that came together in December of 2020 to try and save the world. And in my opinion, it's the money-hungry pharmaceutical companies that don't care about the world. They just care about their pocketbook.
Memorial Hospital, Johns Hopkins. Since 1996, his peers have continuously voted him as one of Washingtonian Magazine's top doctors in cardiology. He has treated several dozen COVID-19 patients and has published in the area. And since I announced your presence at this hearing, I've heard from all kinds of patients what a fabulous doctor you are. You're very.
So basically what they're saying about this guy right here is that he's kind of a badass. I decided that I'm going to translate a little bit in between the clips for the layman like myself. I've just seen these clips 15, 16 times and actually looked up the words and figured out what it actually meant and what it actually meant, what they were saying when it came to these drugs or when it came to certain treatments for COVID, because that's what this whole entire thing's about. So they're introducing this doctor who is a total badass. So Senator Johnson is going to let him take the floor. And here's what he has to say.
Okay. My name is Dr. Ramin Asqui. I'm a board-certified cardiologist and internist who is licensed to practice in D.C., Maryland, and Virginia. And as the senator correctly stated, I've treated several dozen COVID patients since the outbreak of the pandemic. My remarks are directed in part to the differing roles and responsibilities of scientific researchers and government agencies and practicing physicians in a healthcare crisis. Whenever there's a health crisis, whether it's a worldwide pandemic or a family member hit with stroke or heart attack, our nation's practicing physicians not only the critical first responders, in many cases, they are the only ones on the line working with and for the patient. There are brilliant practitioners of academic medicine and MD PhDs, many of them employed by our most profitable drug companies who develop seemingly miraculous cures or therapies. But it is the frontline physicians who certainly, with the help of scientific researchers and billion-dollar drug pharmaceutical companies, must fight and win the war against disease, particularly a disease or ailment that is new and we don't have decades of research to look back on, with patients who, if we do nothing, may suffer and die needlessly. Why then, with a disease we had never seen before in late March, are practicing physicians being condemned, ridiculed, or shamed in some cases for doing what practicing physicians have always done, using their professional skills and expertise to make the best practical, life-saving use of the existing scientific research? It would be wonderful if last March, the FDA or the NIH or a few big drug companies could have announced an instant cure for a disease that had just been discovered. Or, of course, in that event, we would have all prescribed it, easy peasy. But they didn't have it then, and they don't have it now. That's one reason why the FDA encourages the use of FDA-approved drugs approved for one disease to be responsibly and ethically used in the field for other ailments not yet researched or approved. In fact, that is how many cures or treatments get discovered. Drugs or treatments invented and tested for one disease or ailment are applied in a novel way, or for an ailment or disease they have not yet been approved for or tested with. The health policy establishment's criticism of the frontline doctors was over the top, and it was unfounded. First, for example, drugs like hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin, which are FDA approved for certain uses, have extensive safeguards, even for non-approved uses. They were both approved decades ago and have an established record of efficacy and a comprehensive information on possible side effects that physicians can review and are legally and ethically required to review before prescribing. Secondly, the fact is that no doctor should be prescribing these drugs, or in fact any drug, without following standard protocols observed for any drug or any patient. Even if there is FDA-approved scientific research proving that hydroxychloroquine works for malaria, its approved use, or lupus, a long-standing alternative use, one must do a case history and consider the individual patient before prescribing it. Practicing medicine may be an art as much as a science, but is certainly not, quote, paint by the number. Earlier this year, we faced a new dangerously infectious virus in such a health crisis. Like any other crisis with an unknown and unproven enemy, cannot rely exclusively on the tried and true. But it was worse than that. Affirmative steps to keep physicians and patients ignorant were taken. Indeed, censorship of scientific research, indeed medical McCarthyism, became the norm. It is not an insult against science to conclude that action should be taken in the midst of an emergency based on the best facts available, nor any more than it is an insult against history to use tactics or strategy in our national defense that have not been peer-reviewed. I believe that landing craft were rarely used in full-scale amphibious invasion before D-Day. The ones we developed specifically for that purpose obviously could not be tested in full battlefield conditions. Does that mean we could not go ahead with the Normandy invasion because we had no double-blind peer-reviewed studies for these vehicles? I think weather forecast that day was a bit sketchy too. Even outside of an emergency, it is no disrespect to science to say some medical treatments that some physicians deem prudent for their patients should be allowed, and yes, promoted.
All right, keep in mind the fact that this was made last year. It was before all the vaccine hysteria that we're having at the moment, whether to get the vaccine, not to get the vaccine, that's a whole nother video. That's a whole nother choice, your body, your choice, whatever. What we're talking about here is frontline workers, okay? What he's trying to say is that in a time when they had a year of knowing the trial and error of treating patients, they found a couple things that work. The hydro whatever one, but we're about ivermectin here. We could do a whole nother video on that. Ivermectin, ivermectin, ivermectin. Remember that. That's actually what most of these doctors are going to be saying. And even he mentioned it a couple times, but he also mentioned in this last clip, the information was suppressed. It was highly suppressed about anything that was actually successful in treatment. So, I mean, you can watch this video as many times as you want. Just keep looking back at what this guy says. This guy begs and pleads eventually for us to just bring ivermectin onto the scene.
Dr. Asqui. Our next witness is via WebEx, Dr. Jean-Jacques Reiter. Dr. Reiter is a Broward Health Medical Center physician who specializes in pulmonary medicine, internal medicine, and critical care. He previously served as the Chief Medical Information Officer for Broward Health and as an assistant professor at Drexel University College of Medicine. Dr. Reiter serves as a speaker for GlaxoSmithKline, AstraZeneca, and Forest Laboratories, as well as serves on advisory boards for Pfizer. His publications most recently include a study titled, quote, "Use of Ivermectin is associated with lower mortality in hospitalized patients with coronavirus disease," 2019, unquote. Dr. Reiter received his MD from the Drexel University College of Medicine and has accumulated over 22 years of experience in his field. Dr. Reiter.
Thank you very much. Honorable Chairman and Senators of the Committee on Homeland Security. My name is Dr. Jean-Jacques Reiter. I'm unfortunately unable to attend these hearings in person as I'm currently taking care of over 35 hospitalized patients. And it's an honor and privilege to stand here in front of the committee providing firsthand experience on the early treatment for COVID-19. My team has gained extensive experience with the treatment of COVID-19 in both inpatients and outpatients during this pandemic. Back in April, we were faced with a rapidly deteriorating patient population with no effective treatment. Extraordinary times called for extraordinary measures. I could not stand idly by as I've seen more people die in these last 6 months than I've seen in my entire medical career combined. Based on in vitro data by Dr. Wagstaff, my team was able to develop and implement an ivermectin-based protocol that showed tremendous success in treating COVID-19. This laid the foundation for the peer-reviewed ICON study, which was published in Chest, a major US-based medical journal. The overall mortality in that study decreased from 25% in the conventional care group to 15% in the ivermectin treated group. In patients with severe pulmonary disease at onset, the mortality decreased from 81% to 39%. During the second wave of the pandemic, it was common for my team to treat in excess of 40 patients with COVID-19 on a daily basis. This ICON protocol has been optimized since, and we have learned a lot from our successes and failures. The success rate of the ivermectin-based protocol is now far superior to what it was in its early days. Ivermectin-based protocols have now been studied across the world, yet no major large-scale double-blind randomized controlled study has yet been published in a peer-reviewed journal. I will defer more review of the literature to Dr. Corey, who is going to be testifying later. Recent in vitro studies confirmed our clinical experience that the dosing regimen of ivermectin 200 micrograms per kilogram on 2 consecutive days was clinically effective. Of the hundreds of outpatients treated by my team, only 2, I repeat 2, were admitted to the hospital. 1 due to heart failure, the other one due to symptomatic delay of over a week before seeking medical attention. Neither one of them died. Neither one of them needed intubation. Both of them have now been discharged to home without complications. Ivermectin is a widely used medication with excess of 3.7 billion doses administered worldwide. It is currently part of the World Health Organization model list of essential medications. The ICON dosing regimen is based on currently accepted dosing regimen for Norwegian scabies. The dosing regimen has long-standing safety data. Safety of a medication is due to its pharmacokinetics and possible interactions, but not on its intended use. As is the case with any infection, early intervention has been proven time over again that is of critical importance. The same is true for COVID-19. Early intervention increases the likelihood of keeping people out of the hospital and hence decreasing the pressure on the healthcare system. Early intervention is cost effective as it decreases the overall healthcare expenditure. Early intervention decreases viral shedding and viral transmission in the home setting, which is currently believed to be a major site of transmission. Early intervention increases survival. Early intervention decreases the economic impact. Notwithstanding impending vaccination programs, vaccines are not 100% effective and may not be widely available for many months. Many patients may be unable to take the vaccines for healthcare reasons or opt not to do so. Long-term immunity of these vaccines has not yet been documented. Based on these factors, treatment for COVID-19 will need to remain on the forefront even after vaccination programs are initiated. Ivermectin is effective in early disease, late disease, post-exposure prophylaxis, and pre-exposure prophylaxis. Ivermectin is an oral medication requiring no monitoring. Ivermectin is safe. Ivermectin is inexpensive and widely available. The US has spent billions of dollars on a multitude of treatment options. My team is ready to proceed with the randomized controlled trials to address any residual doubt relating to ivermectin use. Yet we're unable to do so due to lack of funding and support. A few $100,000 may definitively prove or disprove the effectiveness of ivermectin for early treatment. With a properly designed and implemented randomized controlled trial, funding, a little bit more funding, could look at the effectiveness of pre and post-exposure prophylaxis using ivermectin. A couple $1 million could complete a multi-center, double-blind, inpatient, placebo-controlled trial for ivermectin. Ladies and gentlemen, I implore you as a frontline provider of COVID-19 to do better, to provide us the answers we need as healthcare providers to help your constituents survive this horrible pandemic in great numbers. After personally witnessing the results of ivermectin-based protocols, I cannot stand by and allow hundreds of thousands of people to go untreated. Thank you.
Am I taking crazy pills here or what? Not only does it say it's safe, effective, and bountiful, it's necessary, should be on the shelf of every pharmaceutical place in the country. He's saying that it works, that it's dropped the mortality almost to nothing. In fact, one of the trials that dropped it to nothing. And the only reason these people had something was because they had like heart failure and something else. Look, how is this not the most important thing going on right now if it wasn't all about money and death? Seems like those are the things that make the most money in the world. Is sickness, death, war, I don't know, maybe babies. Well, on to the next guy.
The research and development of effective treatment protocols for COVID-19 using repurposed drugs. He received his MD from St. George's University School of Medicine. And I'll only add that we added Dr. Corey very late to our hearing in May because I'd heard of his development of, anti-inflammatory steroids in critical care on COVID. And Dr. Corey, I have to tell you, I've had doctors come up to me and thank me for holding that hearing where they listened to you, change their thinking. They believe they've saved their patients' lives because of your testimony at that hearing. I hope your testimony will be as impactful today. Dr. Corey.
Senator, thank you, and thank you for holding this hearing. I just want to start out, I didn't think I'd have to say this, but I want to register my offense at the ranking member's opening statement. I was discredited as a politician. I am a physician and a man of science. I have done nothing but commit myself to scientific truth and the care of patients. And to hear that I'm here because of a political angle, I am not a politician, I'm a physician. I want to start out by saying that I'm not speaking as an individual, I'm speaking on behalf of the organization that I'm a part of. We are a group of some of the most highly published physicians in the world. We have near 2,000 peer-reviewed publications among us, led by Professor Paul Marik, who's our intellectual leader. We came together early on in the pandemic, and all we have sought is to review the world's literature on every facet of this disease, trying to develop effective protocols. You just mentioned that I was here in May, and I wouldn't say touted, I recommended that it was critical that we use corticosteroids in this disease when all of the national and international healthcare organizations said we cannot use those. That turned out to be a life-saving recommendation. I am here again today with a new recommendation. In the last 9 months, in our review of all of the literature as a group, again, we are some of the most highly published physicians in our specialty and the world. We have done nothing but try to figure out how to identify a repurposed and available drug to treat this illness. We have now come to the conclusion after 9 months, and I have to point out, I am severely troubled by the fact that the NIH, the FDA, and the CDC, I do not know of any task force that was assigned or compiled to review repurposed drugs in an attempt to treat this disease. Everything has been about novel and or expensive pharmaceutically engineered drugs, things like tocilizumab and remdesivir and monoclonal antibodies and vaccines. We have 100 years of medicine development. We know we are expert in all the medicines we use, and I do not know of a task force that has been focused on repurposed drugs. I will tell you that my group and our organization, I will say that we have filled that void. That is all we have done is focus on the things we know and things we do. And I'm here to tell you, Dr. Reiter, he just presented. He has one study of the many that I want to talk about. And I want to talk about that we have a solution to this crisis. There is a drug that is proving to be of miraculous impact. And when I say miracle, I do not use that term lightly. And I don't want to be sensationalized when I say that. That is a scientific recommendation based on mountains of data that has emerged in the last 3 months. When I am told, and I just had to hear this in the opening sentence, that we are touting things that are not FDA or NIH recommended, let me be clear. The NIH, their recommendation on ivermectin, which is to not use it outside of controlled trials, is from August 27th. We are now in December. This is 3 to 4 months later. Mountains of data have emerged from many centers and countries around the world showing the miraculous effectiveness of ivermectin. It basically obliterates transmission of this virus. If you take it, you will not get sick. I want to briefly summarize the data. My manuscript, again, published by some of the most, we have contributed more to the medical knowledge of our specialty in our careers than anyone else can claim as a group. And our manuscript, which was posted on Medicine Preprint Server, details all of this evidence. I want to briefly summarize it. Number one, we have evidence that ivermectin is effective not only in prophylaxis, in the prevention. If you take it, you will not get sick. We just came across a trial last night from Argentina by the lead investigator of ivermectin in Argentina, Dr. Hector Carvalho. They prophylaxed 800 healthcare workers. Not one got sick. In the 400 that they didn't prophylax with ivermectin, 58% got sick. 237 of those 400 got sick. If you take it, you will not get sick. It has immense and potent antiviral activity. We know that from the first study in Monash, it has made the bench to the bedside. Prophylaxis, we now have 4 large randomized controlled trials totaling over 1,500 patients, each trial showing that as a prophylaxis agent, it is immensely effective. You will not get sick. You will be protected from getting ill if you take it. In early outpatient treatment, we have 3 randomized controlled trials and multiple observation as well as case series showing that if you take ivermectin, the need for hospitalization and death will decrease. The most profound evidence we have is in the hospitalized patients. We have 4 randomized controlled trials there, multiple observation trials, all showing the same thing. You will not die, or you will die at much, much, much lower rates. Statistically significant, large magnitude results if you take ivermectin. It is proving to be a wonder drug. It has already won the Nobel Prize in Medicine in 2015 for its impacts on global health in the eradication of parasitic diseases. It is proving to be an immensely powerful antiviral and anti-inflammatory agent. It is critical for its use in this disease. We, again, stand by our manuscript. It is a scientific manuscript. It's been submitted for peer review. But please recognize peer review takes time. It takes months. We do not have months. We have 100,000 patients in the hospital right now dying. I'm a lung specialist. I'm an ICU specialist. I've cared for more dying COVID patients than anyone can imagine. They're dying because they can't breathe. They non-invasive ventilators and/or they're sedated and paralyzed and attached to mechanical ventilators that breathe for them. And I watch them every day. They die. By the time they get me in the ICU, they're already dying. They're almost impossible to recover. Early treatment is key. We need to offload the hospitals. We are tired. I can't keep doing this. If you look at my manuscript, and if I have to go back to work next week, any further deaths are going to be needless deaths, and I cannot be traumatized by that. I cannot keep caring for patients when I know that they could have been saved with earlier treatment, and that drug that will treat them and prevent the hospitalization is ivermectin. I am here today. I'm calling to action. The NIH, their last recommendation was August 27th. August 27th. I want to be clear. I am not here as a politician or a dramatist or sensationalizing what I'm recommending. I'm going to be very clear and very simple. All I ask is for the NIH to review our data that we've compiled of all of the emerging data. We have almost 30 studies. Everyone is reliably and reproducibly positive, showing the dramatic impacts of ivermectin. Please, I'm just asking that they review our manuscript. It is a serious manuscript by serious, highly experienced physicians and researchers. I cannot call on more credibility than we have. We're not just a random doctor who's saying that we have a cure. I don't want to say I have a cure. I'm just asking review our data. We have immense amounts of data to show that ivermectin must be implemented and implemented now. Senator, the last thing I want to say is, you know who's dying here? It's our African American and Latino and elderly. It's some of the most disadvantaged and impoverished members of our society. They are dying at higher rates than anyone else. It's the most severe discrepancy I've seen in my medical career. And we are responsible to protect those disadvantaged members. We have a special duty to provide countermeasures. The amount of evidence to show that ivermectin is life-saving and protective is so immense, and the drug is so safe. My colleagues have talked about it. It must be instituted and implemented. I'm asking the NIH to review our data and come up with recommendations for society. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank Dr. Corey, and I will make you this guarantee that before the day is out, we'll have a letter. First of all, we'll enter all your data into our hearing record, and then I'll have a letter to the NIH asking them to review it.
Please,
okay?
and
hopefully I'll have some senators join me in that.
All right. That ought to do it. Oh, wait, what? There's a pill called ivermectin that can, I don't know, stop everything, stop transmission? Did you guys listen to that last video? I took notes. Yeah, safe, effective, it needs funding, like he says. There's a task force that's working for pharmaceutical drugs for vaccines and the NRA trials, nothing to do with ivermectin that actually works. He says that it obliterates, his words, transmission of the virus. You will not get sick. He has multiple trials in Europe, multiple trials in the US that are 100% effective. And he labels it as a wonder drug. But yet you guys want to take the needle. He says that there was an entire task force for the vaccines and they completely ignored what happened with ivermectin. Go back, watch the video again, and then go get your jab. That's stuck in. All right. On to the next video that's going to...
An array of them has been social media. And you say that your pages in particular have been repeatedly blocked on Facebook. I wonder if you could just elaborate on your experience with Facebook or any other social media on this topic.
Yeah. I want to try to be respectful because I think the intention is correct. The execution is unfortunately damaging, which is my guess at what the social media outlets, in particular, it's Facebook, is that they want to cut down on misinformation, right? Which is many doctors are out there claiming X, Y, and Z work in this disease. The challenge is you're also silencing those of us who are expert, reasoned, researched, and extremely knowledgeable. And so my group, our Facebook page, and again, I repeat, we are some of the most highly published physicians in our specialty. We've spent, decades in academic medicine. We're not just some random doctor, but our group, every time we mention ivermectin, we've been put in Facebook jail. Currently, as of this moment, our Facebook page is shut down to the point where we cannot post anything. And we've asked the senator for help in that because we're trying to disseminate expert opinion, heavily researched insights into the therapeutics of this disease, and we are unable to do that on social media.
What reason, Dr. Corey, what reason have they given, if any, for putting you in Facebook jail?
I don't know that we've gotten specific reasons, but the best that we can tell is that we were mentioning ivermectin. So any claims to a simple solution, and by the way, I'm going to stand by my professional reputation, my decades in medicine, and I'm going to tell you that I believe, not only I believe, but my group of doctors, and there's at least 9 of us who co-authored this manuscript, we are telling the world this is the solution to COVID-19 and it can be implemented rapidly. However, social media does not want to hear that from doctors. And I don't blame them because otherwise you're going to have doctors coming along and saying, I don't know, soda water or this is the next solution. So I understand the intent. However, I just wish some credibility would be applied to us, and I don't know how to solve that answer because I do think misinformation is a problem. It is a deep and significant problem in this pandemic. However, we are not propagators of misinformation.
Is Facebook staffed with expert epidemiologists and infectious disease researchers, to your knowledge?
Not to my knowledge, certainly not.
No.
Well, anybody come to any conclusions at the end of this video? Just wrapping it up, we have several doctors talking about how they have the staff of doctors behind them that are some of the best in the world, that are the frontline workers that are actually looking at this in the eye, that are saying all of the ivermectin trials that they've seen personally were close to 100%. We are now in from a pandemic to an epidemic is what I would call it with the vaccines. If the vaccines were 100%, that'd be one thing. But if you look at Israel or any places where it's 100% vaccinated, they're still getting sick and they're still dying. That's all I'm saying. Those are facts. People say that it's the unvaccinated problem. Well, I think I'd rather just get my hands on some ivermectin for whenever I get sick, according to, these doctors, as opposed to shooting a nucleic acid into my body. But hey, that's your choice. You guys come up with your own conclusions. Look up these doctors, look up their names, look up everything. If you want to watch the entire video, I'm going to put it in the information video. I'm going to put the information for the video in the comments. And you guys can watch the entire thing like I did. And you can come up with your own conclusions. I'm just here in the age of information, spreading a little bit to you guys.